It's a brave new world out there, Lon. Blom with squad douche. But look at the pressure he's put on the 96% hand. And now it has to run through Munz's head. If Blom's got a better ace, he'd be all but dead. If he's got pocket threes, Munz would be all but dead.
He came out of nowhere, an anonymous kid from Sweden who took on the best poker players in the world and beat them all. Within weeks, he made over $6 million, then lost every dollar in the most brutal collapse online poker has ever seen. Viktor Blom was born on September 26, 1990 in Gothenburg, Sweden. He was the youngest of 4 children, with 2 older sisters and an older brother named Sebastian. It was Sebastian who first introduced Viktor to the game of poker when Viktor was just 14 years old. They played No Limit Texas Hold'em together, sparking what would become an obsession for the younger Blom. Hungry for more competition, Viktor began teaching his school friends how to play. The game quickly spread throughout the student body. At lunch, Blom would host cash games on school grounds, sometimes with up to 25 students playing at once. Despite being younger than many of his opponents, he consistently won, showcasing his natural aptitude for strategic thinking and reading opponents. Before long, Blom transitioned to the online world, creating the screen name Blom90. Within weeks, he was playing $500 sight-and-go tournaments with startling consistency. By the time he was 15, Viktor had built a bankroll exceeding $275,000. His rise, however, was marked by extreme volatility. After withdrawing his entire bankroll and redepositing it on a single site, he moved into high-stakes cash games and sit-and-goes. The result was catastrophic. He lost everything. Determined, Blom started again, depositing just $3,000 and grinding back up. He repeated the cycle of running up huge bankrolls and losing them several times. These early patterns foreshadowed what would become a defining feature of his poker career. Massive swings, both up and down. Eventually, Blom's school performance began to suffer due to his nocturnal poker sessions. After blowing through his school maintenance grant, he had to appeal to his parents for financial help. They agreed to support him only if he promised to quit poker and return home. Blom made the promise, but never kept it. Instead, he quietly recommitted himself to the game. He borrowed $2,000 one final time and began playing No Limit Hold'em cash games again. Within days, he turned the deposit into over $200,000. 2 weeks later, his bankroll reached $1.7 million. Though this streak eventually cooled, it had cemented his belief that he could survive and thrive in high-stakes poker. In early 2009, the high-stakes poker forums lit up with rumors of a mysterious, hyper-aggressive player tearing through the iPoker network under the alias Blom90. His playstyle was wild, intuitive, and fearless. Veteran grinders criticized his technical flaws, yet couldn't deny the results. Despite lacking the fundamentals many elite players relied on, he had an uncanny ability to read opponents and adapt in real time. As the buzz grew, Swedish pro Luke Schwartz publicly predicted that this unknown Blom90 would soon hit full tilt poker and send all the Americans broke. He wasn't wrong. Later that year, Viktor created a new anonymous screen name, Isildur1, inspired by a character from The Lord of the Rings. His goal was clear: compete against the best players in the world at the highest stakes available. He deposited onto full tilt poker and immediately sat down at the $25 per $50 No Limit Hold'em tables. What followed was unprecedented. He didn't just play the top pros, he challenged them all simultaneously. Tom Dwan, Phil Ivey, Patrick Antonius, Cole South, and Brian Townsend all faced him in heads-up battles across multiple tables at once. At his peak, Isildur1 was 9-tabling against 3 different elite opponents, grinding through sessions that often lasted over 24 hours. His style was radically aggressive. He bet more than the size of the pot. He moved all in instantly, even in massive pots. He played deep stacks and forced opponents to make difficult decisions constantly. Many thought it was reckless. Others realized they were witnessing something new, a player combining raw instinct with relentless pressure in ways they had never seen. In just a few short weeks, Isildur1 turned heads not just with his play, but with his win rate. He went from $2,000 to over $6 million in full tilt winnings in less than 2 months. And then came the legendary sessions against Tom Dwan, starting with $300/$600 heads up. No Limit Hold'em, the two upgraded to $500/$1,000 limits. The matches lasted for 2 straight weeks in November 2009, sometimes continuing for 15 hours at a time. The pots frequently reached over $500,000. When the dust settled, Isildur1 had taken around $5 million off Dwan, cementing his place as a top-tier online player. By the end of that run, Viktor Blom was up over $11 million for the year. He had created the most explosive, high-stakes online poker environment in history. Not only did he participate in every one of the 12 largest online pots ever recorded at the time, he was also involved in 17 of the top 20, and all of them were heads up. Despite his astronomical rise, Viktor Blom's downfall began just as quickly as his ascent. Between mid-November and mid-December 2009, Isildur1's non-stop playing schedule, relentless variance, and lack of proper game selection began to take a toll. On one infamous night, he multi-tabled 9 high-stakes heads-up games at once against Patrick Antonius, Phil Ivey, and Tom Dwan. The action was split between Pot Limit Omaha (PLO) and No Limit Hold'em at stakes ranging from $300, $600 to $500, $1,000. The results were disastrous. He lost approximately $2.1 million to Antonius and another $1.2 million to Ivy. Though he clawed back around $800,000 from Dwan that same night, the net result was one of the worst sessions in online poker history. Still undeterred, Blom continued. He issued a challenge to Phil Ivey to play 3 tables of $500 to $1,000 heads up. No Limit Hold'em. Over the course of a week, he lost $3.2 million. Blom later admitted Ivey was the toughest opponent he'd ever faced. Then came December 8, 2009, a date that would be etched into online poker history. Viktor Blom faced off against PLO specialist Brian Hastings in a 5-hour session at the $500, $1,000 stakes. By the end of the night, Blom had lost $4.2 million. It was the single biggest loss in a day for any online poker player ever recorded. The match wasn't just notable for the result. After the session, controversy erupted. It was revealed that Hastings, along with fellow card runners pros Brian Townsend and Cole South, had shared hand histories and studied Blom's tendencies in detail before the session. Although this kind of preparation was a grey area at the time, Townsend was penalized with a temporary suspension from his Red Pro status on Full Tilt for violating site policies. In hindsight, the data analysis gave Hastings a distinct strategic edge. He had studied over 30,000 hands from Isildur1's previous matches. The effort paid off, not just in winnings, but in permanently altering the poker world's view on fairness, data sharing, and online ethics. Graphs from the session later revealed that Blom ran nearly $3 million below expected value, E5. In other words, he was incredibly unlucky on top of everything else. Still, the defeat was crushing. He had lost nearly all of his full tilt winnings. After this, Viktor all but vanished from the site. For nearly 2 years, the poker world was captivated by the mystery behind the screen name Isildur1. As he tore through some of the biggest names in poker and logged historic sessions, speculation ran rampant. Some thought he was Phil Hellmuth. Others suggested unknown Swedish pros or high-stakes heads-up specialists using burner accounts. But no one knew for sure. Behind the scenes, Viktor Blom remained mostly silent. He was not interested in media attention. He didn't post on poker forums or appear on shows. Unlike his peers, he never showed his face at televised events, choosing instead to remain anonymous and focus purely on online play. That changed in early 2011 when PokerStars offered him a sponsorship deal. As part of the promotion for their new 4-table challenge format, Superstar Showdown, Blom agreed to go public. The format featured heads-up matches against any willing opponent over 2,500 hands at $50, $100 stakes, combining both No Limit Hold'em and Pot Limit Omaha. To launch the series, PokerStars unveiled his identity at the PCA in the Bahamas. For the first time, the world saw the man behind the myth, a quiet, tall, smiling 20-year-old named Viktor Blom from Gothenburg, Sweden. The announcement sent waves through the poker community. Though many had speculated it might be him, the confirmation added a new layer to his story. Blom, with his boyish face and modest demeanor, seemed at odds with the ruthless player known for creating the most aggressive, high-variance sessions in online poker history. Once revealed, Blom became a representative of PokerStars and began playing under the Isildur1 name openly. He participated in several Superstar Showdown matches against players like Daniel Negreanu, Isaac Haxton, and Tony G. Some matches he won, others he lost, but his unpredictability and unorthodox play kept viewers glued to the rail. Despite being a brand ambassador, Blom remained a mystery in many ways. He rarely gave interviews. When he did, his responses were short, often one-word answers. Poker wasn't something he explained. It was something he did. Even his own training video attempt with Run It Once fell flat. He couldn't articulate why he made certain plays. He simply felt them. In April 2011, the online poker world changed forever. The US Department of Justice seized the domains of the largest poker sites, including PokerStars and Full Tilt Poker, in what became known as Black Friday. With Full Tilt's operation suspended and the US market gone, high-stakes online traffic, PVI, plummeted. For Viktor Blom, this meant the end of the Full Tilt environment that had enabled his meteoric rise. He continued playing on PokerStars, but the same nosebleed action was harder to find. Nonetheless, Blom adapted. He expanded his repertoire to include mixed games like 2-7 Triple Draw, Limit Omaha High-Low, and 8-Game. His results in these formats were mixed, but his drive to battle the best remained intact. During this period, he continued to crush on PokerStars, where he put together several seven-figure winning stretches. In 2012, he proved that his talents weren't limited to cash games by winning the PokerStars Caribbean Adventure Super High Roller for $1.25 million. It was his first major live tournament title and a statement win on a global stage, defeating a final table that included Daniel Negreanu and Jonathan Duhamel. In October 2012, Full Tilt Poker relaunched under new ownership, and Blom was announced as one of the site's featured pros alongside Tom Dwan and Gus Hansen. The trio, dubbed the Professionals, were the face of the new Full Tilt. Once again, Viktor was at the heart of a high-stakes ecosystem, this time with even more experience and a more refined skill set. In the early months of 2013, Blom went on another heater. By mid-January, he had already won over $5 million across games like Pot Limit Omaha, No Limit Hold'em, and mixed formats. But true to form, the boom didn't last. By the end of January, his profits had dipped to $1.1 million. By February, they were down to $300,000. He rallied again in the summer, briefly returning to $5 million in winnings, only to crash back down to even by September. By the end of the year, his total profit for 2013 stood at $540,000. These violent swings were nothing new. They were Viktor Blom's signature. The poker world had learned to expect the unexpected. One month he was unbeatable, the next he was buried. He was never afraid to risk everything. Viktor Blom's career from 2014 onward followed the same volatile path that had defined him since his teenage years. In 2014, he recorded a loss of approximately $1.7 million across online platforms, marking one of his steeper annual downswings. However, as always with Blom, a comeback was never out of the question. In 2015, he roared back to form. By the end of that year, he was the biggest online winner, with profits totaling around $3.5 million on PokerStars alone. His ability to rebound from losses was both legendary and bewildering to his peers. But what made him unique was that he did it without the deep analytical tools or solver-based training that had become standard in modern poker. Blom still relied on intuition, feel, and years of experience from thousands of hands played at the highest levels. By 2016, Full Tilt Poker, his original battleground, was officially shut down by PokerStars, consolidating all player traffic under a single network. The end of Full Tilt marked the close of an iconic chapter in online poker history. Blom's results in 2016 dipped again, with a reported loss close to $500,000. The disappearance of Full Tilt and the declining popularity of ultra-high-stakes online games signaled a shrinking arena for players like Viktor. Still, he continued to appear in major online games when the opportunity arose. He also made sporadic appearances in live events, though his preference remained firmly rooted in the online world. Despite all the ups and downs, Viktor Blom never changed his approach. He didn't study charts, he didn't run simulations, he never hired coaches. His strategy remained internal, intuitive, and unique, frustrating for some, awe-inspiring for others. Even when he lost millions, Blom refused to drop down in stakes unless absolutely necessary. His self-belief was unshakable. He treated poker not like a business to be optimized, but like a game to be conquered through will, instinct, and courage. Behind the screen name and the seven-figure swings was a young man who never quite embraced the spotlight. Viktor Blom remained one of the most enigmatic figures in poker. While others sought fame, sponsorships, and interviews, Blom avoided media attention. His reclusive nature made him even more fascinating to fans and opponents alike. Despite his aggressive style at the tables, those who met him in person described him as soft-spoken, cheerful, and deeply passionate about the game. He wasn't known for theory debates or long poker discussions. In fact, when Run It Once founder Phil Galfond tried to film a strategy session with him in London, Blom had little interest in explaining his thought process. Galfond later said Blom's poker genius only worked inside his head.
I don't think anybody has ever won as much money online as fast as Viktor has. But he also could lose it pretty quickly.
He wasn't a student of solvers, he didn't run simulations, he barely reviewed hands. But what he had was an unparalleled instinct and a dangerously fast processing speed. His ability to adapt mid-session without external input was nearly impossible to teach. His decision-making relied on rhythm, pattern recognition, and a deep feel for momentum shifts, a style increasingly rare in the solver-heavy modern game. During his early 20s, Blom lived in London. His lifestyle mirrored his poker swings, unpredictable and intense. He'd wake up late, catch a film at the cinema in the early afternoon, then come home and play high-stakes poker into the early morning hours. Friends noted he had an extensive DVD collection, including a surprising number of romantic comedies. It was a quiet, eccentric routine for someone risking hundreds of thousands of dollars nightly. Gambling, for Viktor, wasn't just a profession, it was a love. He once spun up $200 playing $100 sight and goes after losing hundreds of thousands in a previous session, purely for the thrill of rebuilding. He played when he felt like it. He stopped when he didn't. His relationship with poker was driven by joy, not obligation. This joy was also his weakness. He refused to game select, often taking on stronger opponents at stakes that didn't match his bankroll. Even during downswings, he rarely dropped down unless forced to. The swings weren't a bug. They were the feature. He thrived in chaos, even when it hurt. His parents, for their part, struggled with his choices. His mother once remarked how shocking it was to imagine millions of dollars exchanging hands daily. But for Viktor, it was just a game, a battle of minds, and he was built to play it his way. In 2025, Viktor Blom made headlines once again, this time by returning to live tournament action at the World Series of Poker in Las Vegas. It marked a rare appearance on the live stage for a player known more for avoiding public limelight than chasing bracelets. After years of semi-retirement from major events, Blom entered the $50,000 high roller and immediately reminded everyone of what made him special. Though he didn't take down the event, he made a deep run and received widespread praise for his composure, unpredictability, and elite hand-reading ability, even against today's generation of solver-trained pros. Observers noted that Blom's game had evolved. He still played with aggression, but it was more measured, more selective. There were fewer reckless overbets, fewer wild all-ins, and a sharper focus on position and timing. His instinctive style remained intact, but there was a hint of discipline layered on top. In post-game interviews, Blom maintained his usual mystique. He offered brief, modest answers and deflected any attempts to turn the spotlight onto himself. When asked about the current state of poker, he acknowledged the role of solvers and advanced study methods, but emphasized that he still believed in playing the player. The World Series appearance sparked new discussions across forums and poker news sites. Fans debated whether a full comeback was on the horizon, or if this was just another brief cameo from poker's most elusive icon. Regardless, it proved that more than a decade after his explosion onto the scene, Viktor Blom could still compete with and outthink the best in the world. His return wasn't just nostalgic, it was a reminder. Even in an era dominated by cold analysis and near-perfect play, there's still room in poker for raw feel, for chaos, and for magic. Viktor Blom's legacy isn't built on trophies, speeches, or training courses. It's built on fire, on the refusal to conform, on sitting at the highest stakes against the best players in the world, without fear, without notes, and often without sleep. He is not a technician, he is not a theorist, he is a pure competitor, someone who sees poker not as a formula to be solved but as a fluid battle of pressure, intuition, and endurance. In an industry increasingly shaped by data, his approach remains defiantly human. Blom's impact on poker is impossible to quantify. He changed the way heads-up no-limit hold'em was played. He triggered the largest swings in online history. He made railbirds stay up all night just to catch a glimpse of the next million-dollar hand. For many, he was the reason they got interested in online poker to begin with. His anonymity added to the legend. For years, fans didn't know what he looked like. They only saw the numbers: 300,000 pots, 1 million sessions, 4 million losses. He became the embodiment of the high-stakes dream and the high-stakes nightmare. Even after going public, he never lost that mystique. He never sought attention, he never explained his plays, he never tried to brand himself. He simply logged in, played whoever sat, and logged off. To this day, Viktor Blom remains one of the last truly unpredictable forces in poker. Win or lose, he plays his way, and the game is better for it. If you want to see another story that proves poker isn't just about solvers and bankroll charts, watch this next. It's a collection of the most jaw-dropping underdog runs in poker history. Unknowns who beat the odds, crushed the pros, and walked away with life-changing money. Click now to see the biggest long shots turn into legends.